Welcome back to Moves, Mindset, and More. I am one of your hosts, Wendy Silver, a real estate advisor with Keller Williams and the Dahlbahn and Company team, and my co-host here.
James Walleman. I work as a loan officer with Leader Bank.
How you doing, James?
I'm doing
So
well.
we're at episode
This is
two.
episode 2.
Episode
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
Good
We
times.
had some growing pains through
We
episode 1,
did.
and I
We
think we came
did.
out all right.
Yeah, I realized I didn't even say what I really do or
We need,
work,
yeah,
where I
right.
work.
And we
So
need
I
to
feel
talk a
like
little less,
talk.
right? Yeah,
Well, it is a podcast.
right. We got to,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we got to keep it
Condensed,
within the
concise.
confines
Correct.
of what it needs
Yes.
to be.
All right. So before we jump into some market updates, a topic for
Sure.
today, some other fun stuff, anything crazy going on in your life?
No, just enjoying the sort of pre-spring. Here's a nice day, and there's the next day's, disgustingly cold.
Now,
And
welcome to New
I've been
England.
going out to eat more. Just went and had a lovely meal in Salem at Ledger. Have you been to Ledger?
I love Ledger. It is
great.
one of my favorite places
great.
because the popovers
It's unbelievable. You have to get the
are
popovers.
to die for.
Yeah, and they have a cool winter menu right now, which is I don't know when they're doing it till, but 3 courses, appetizer, entree, dessert,
Really?
$45.
I gotta try that. That's
Yeah,
one of my go-to
it's a
places.
deal.
Have you heard about the new place in Salem, Bernadette's?
I have heard about it. We were going to go, but they're closed on Sundays, so that's why we ended up going to Ledger.
We were gonna go, and then I don't know, our plans got all screwed up, so I had to cancel. But I'm gonna try that. for
Sister
sure.
restaurant to Settler.
Yes.
Yep.
Wait, are
Oh.
they also related to the people who own Ledger or totally separate?
No, separate.
Separate. Okay.
Separate. Settler, Bernadette, same owners. Ledger, separate owners. I have not been to Settler or Bernadette, but everybody raves about it. Ledger is one of my go-tos.
Good food in
Yeah.
Salem.
Really good food.
Really
in
good
Salem.
food.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's start, and we're going to kind of try to do this regularly on each episode. A little bit of a market update,
Sure.
both from the lending perspective and then also from a real estate perspective. But I would love to hear from you where things are at. I know we were doing pretty well. Rates were trending down, and then the things became a little unstable. And what's happening now? Where are we?
So it's funny because I gave a presentation a couple of weeks ago to a real estate office, and I kept saying that the keys to this year are boring and gradual, hoping that we stay in this rate cut trajectory, that rates continue to gradually go down, that we kind of not have a lot of events, that it's kind of boring and stable throughout the year, which is something we haven't had in several years now. And so we are still in a rate cut trajectory. Don't let anybody tell you we're
So
not.
they're going down
We're
still.
well, yes, the market as a whole, but obviously the days and the weeks sometimes do this little, these dips
Hills and
down and these
valleys.
and hill to values, exactly. And so we saw rates go down just before the Middle East conflict emerged, right before that Saturday when we woke up and suddenly we were in a conflict in the Middle East. Rates went down to the lowest level since 2022. Everybody's posting about it. Everybody's out there so psyched on social
I-
media everywhere, including you.
I was
including
saying
me.
I had
Right.
clients who put it offer on a house, signed the PNS, super
Right.
psyched, and
Right.
then 2 days later, that day rolled around, and now
Correct.
they're a little bit like, oh shit.
Correct. And and in that week we had three economic reports that are, sort of bad for the economy but good for rates, right?
Mhm.
And so that, and then we walked into the Middle East conflict on Saturday. Coming out of that on Monday, a lot of people thought we would see rates continue to kind of stay down or trend down. Obviously, that didn't happen. The Strait of Hormuz was closed, and suddenly there was a lot of retaliation in the oil world, which helped to bring oil prices up. Hence, kind of bringing rates back up to where they were previous to that week,
Right.
right? But if you follow where they were before that that week that we went down, and after the conflict started, we're still a little bit elevated, but we're not like that far off. So in some ways, my boring and gradual prediction is still there. But again, we're going to have those hill to values to your point. And how long is this conflict going to go on? How long does the strait stay closed? How long do oil prices stay up? Those are all
Yeah.
factors that
Yeah.
are part of this equation.
So it's having an impact, but it's not catastrophic
It's not
or
catastrophic,
drastic.
right?
People should stay the course.
Correct. Well, I think the biggest thing is not following the headlines all the time. I
Yeah.
think headlines.
Isn't that the advice for everything right now?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe follow the headlines once a week and you might
Exactly.
feel a little better about life.
Yeah.
But we as loan officers deal with how are rates? How's the market? What's going on? And from day to day, from week to week, it changes. So having your mortgage loan officer on call to chat this through and
Yeah.
kind of see, it's hard to explain in quick snips as to why this is
Yeah.
all happening the way it is. I have a funny story. I offered a refinance quote February 26th to some clients who are long overdue for a refinance, could have saved them a lot of money. This was when rates were down. And I got a text, I got an email yesterday that said, "Hey, James, we'll take option number 1." And this
Guess
is from
what,
February
guys?
26th, so
You're
I'm gonna
out
have
of
to
luck.
make some calls to update them on exactly where their scenarios are now, right? Like, and
Option 1 is no longer an
that's
option.
advice for people that
Yeah.
are listening is, talk to your loan officer. Even if you don't think
Yeah.
you're ready to refinance, find out when that window might be. Sometimes it's a 72-hour window, sometimes it's a 24-hour window. Like, we're always trying to save people money, but sometimes you have to jump. So being prepared is huge, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And just to give people
Sure.
a little bit of info in terms of where the real estate market is, I'm looking at numbers from last month, February 2026, and I would say for Essex County, which is where we are, and also real estate is very local when it comes to looking at market data.
Hmm.
So, even within our county, it is drastically different and oftentimes from town to town, city to
Sure.
city. But looking at the entire county, I would say inventory is still pretty tight. It's a little bit, I would say, compared to last year, we have about 280 homes. We had 280 homes on the market in February 2026, or that came on the market. And this was down about 3% from the same time last year. Overall, though, it's still very much a seller's market. There's still a lot of demand, which is why the inventory is still so tight.
Sure. And I
Um,
I think there's some hope, at least there is
yeah.
in me, that we had a brutal winter, right?
Yes.
Like, we had snow up and down the East Coast, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, where we really got bombarded, and we haven't in a few years. So I'm hoping, because we are all hoping that with rates coming down a bit, it might kind of break up some of that logjam. We were hoping for better inventory in 2026. So I am still hoping that as we move into the actual spring, right? The spring is the 21st. As of then, I hope that we start to see this inventory increase because, we hate to
Yeah.
have that kind of pent up demand
You know,
so
overall, it's
aggressively.
still in Massachusetts kind of down, but actually we're seeing it tick up a little bit in Essex County. So I
Sure.
think we're doing a little bit better. And I will also say
Great.
homes are, the sale to list price ratios, things are still, they're basically selling for asking price or no longer going way over a little. It depends again, depends where you are. I'm
Right.
speaking county-wide. It
Sure.
could be different, more locally, but we're definitely um, seeing that there's definitely signaling that there's a little bit more buying power for buyers in certain categories, especially at the luxury end. Anything above 1.85 million and higher is definitely trending towards a buyer's market. Everything
Sure.
else is still largely seller.
Sure. And
Um,
hopefully we see
and
some of those that inventory in the other brackets start to increase in the
yes,
spring and summer and fall
yes.
because the buyers are there. The
Buyers are
buyers are
I was I
there.
was gonna say that even with the snow,
Right.
we
Right.
buyers are there because they finally kind of are getting it that interest rates are what they
Yeah, we
are
are
right
we are
now,
where we are.
and
I think we hover the prediction starting the year, most experts predicted somewhere around low sixes, high fives throughout the year.
right.
And right now I think we still end there. We still have that kind of trajectory throughout the year, doing a little bit of waves, but
Yep.
kind of staying there. And I think buyers are growing accustomed to
Yeah.
that. And now if sellers can just get on board,
Yeah.
we really could have a healthy
Yes.
or moving towards a healthier
Yes.
market, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Well, our topic for today,
Appraisals. My
appraisals. Now,
favorite.
and please, people, stay. I know this doesn't sound exciting or sexy, but
But it's important.
they're so important, and I
Mhm.
don't think people realize that. And I'll be quite honest, until I really was in this business, even as a home buyer and seller multiple times over, I didn't realize
Sure.
how important appraisals are to the process. So
Sure.
let's start by getting a better understanding of what they are
Yeah.
from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it does a few things. It one gives the lending entity, the bank or the loan lending company, the ability to look at the value of a house, the appraised value of a house, to see and make sure that they're not lending too much money based on the value of the house. Right now, it's cool because sometimes clients will come in, will run automatic underwriting. We will get what's called a PIW, or an appraisal waiver, back that says, "Hey, the bank or the lending entity doesn't actually need an appraisal. We feel comfortable with this estimated value." Great. That's really good in a sense, because it kind of cuts down some of the timeline that it takes us to process the mortgage. We don't have to get an appraiser to go out.
Because buyers pay for an appraisal.
Correct. And it can save them $500 or $600. But we always have to tell those clients, you have appraisal waiver. However, you can still opt to do one, because some clients want to know what their house is worth when buying it, for multiple reasons. If they want to refinance down the road, if they have, plans to dip into equity later on,
How
it
does
really ends up being their choice.
the bank appraisal differ, if at all, from like the appraisals the towns are doing?
The town appraisals, or the reason that they're using that information is usually for tax assessment.
So it's
Whereas
different
the bank is using
from a
the
value.
value for,
Okay.
lending purposes. Are they lending,
Yeah.
is the value okay? Does it justify the lending, right? And
Right.
so it's kind of used for multiple different options,
Yeah.
multiple different things,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I've seen, it's funny because I think buyers and sellers don't have a lot of understanding, and why would they, about how this can impact them in a deal. Um, it can blow up a deal in
Sure.
many ways, and the ways that I have kind of seen it, and the way I educate my clients. Because the other thing to understand about an appraisal is it's really one person's opinion,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So I always ask my clients when we put in an offer, and also, I should say, if you're paying cash for a house, this is not really meant for you, right? This
Right.
is not really going to impact you. Sure, it might tell you about value, and maybe that's important for other reasons,
Right.
financial wellness and all that. But um, it's really only going to impact you if you're getting a mortgage.
Right.
So,
Right.
assuming you are, and you have this appraisal, what I try to, we put in an offer for a price. People don't understand that sometimes the highest price isn't the best price, because if it doesn't appraise, who's going to cover that gap?
Right, now you have that gap.
Now you have that
And you
gap.
have to figure out a way to bridge that. There's no way that
Right.
you have to. So there's multiple options, right? Cancel the deal is the one that nobody wants to do, right?
Right.
But that is on the table at that point,
Yep.
right? Having not going forward if you can't find middle ground. Some clients, some buyers and sellers agree in negotiations to split the difference,
Yep.
right? If you're short $10,000, maybe it's 5 and 5 that they come to the table with, five less on the purchase price and five more on the down payment, and they meet in the middle. Um, Sometimes the buyers just say,
Yeah.
we're going to bridge that gap, and sometimes they put that in the offer.
Sometimes they
Tell
do,
us
and we
about
do.
that.
Yeah, so we put into the offer, in most cases, if you are getting a mortgage and if you're not already fully underwritten, which there are programs to do that, which we
Sure.
can talk about another time. But assuming you're not fully underwritten, we'll want to make sure that you have a mortgage contingency in your offer, so that this deal is contingent upon you getting your mortgage. And it's interesting because as part of that, there's kind of the appraisal, but it doesn't exclusively cover an appraisal gap, that mortgage contingency. If you really want to have a contingency for the appraisal, we have to include that specifically. Now, sometimes if you don't get the mortgage because of the appraisal, the mortgage falls through, and then I guess you're covered. But it could be a little dicey, right? Like, it's not
Totally.
always the same thing. So
Totally.
if you really know you don't have the cash to cover any gap, and you were worried there could be. Now, a lot of times we look at the data, we'll help make informed decisions about where we think an appraisal will likely come in. And there is some things we can do on our end. We share comps with an appraiser, we do all these things. But, if somebody's worried about
Comps
that,
being what?
comps, like similarly priced homes of
Okay. Just in
similar
case we have
condition,
novices out there
but
listening.
similar
Right. Right.
condition.
Sure.
But that's why it's important. You got to know people who know what that house looked like,
Right. Right.
what the situation was.
Sure.
So that's how we help sort of guide them and educate them. Um,
And then let me just
yeah.
interject real quick. Sometimes it's about comparables around the town or around the neighborhood that helps us to say in the beginning,
Yes.
but also sometimes an appraisal in a certain area that hasn't had a house sell at a certain level, they can start a trend, right? They can start
Yeah.
sort of set the standard, right? I have one right now that it's not my deal. My clients got beat on the offer, but everybody went over ask, right? The agent allowed
Yeah.
some offers to come in the day before they listed it, to see what it would come in at before they listed, before they said what the sellers wanted. Everybody wanted this house. People were overbidding. No, everybody was over $1 million, right? And nobody, no other house in the history of this neighborhood has sold for over $1 million. So it's going to be interesting to
It's
see
and
what
that's
the
what's
appraiser
happening. I mean,
says,
that's
right?
happening
Does that
all the
set the
time.
standard for other neighbors to,
Exactly.
right?
And
So
it
it's
can
an,
change that's
yeah,
why it can change
totally,
month to month.
totally,
I
totally,
have clients who just are buying a new construction luxury home in Bolton.
right,
There isn't a real market for we didn't know what that was gonna appraise
right,
for,
right.
and fortunately, it did, but, these are variables we're accounting for that we wanna think about when we're putting an offer together, but also for sellers to understand that if you don't have these conversations when you're evaluating offers, that the highest price might not be the
Yeah,
best
not if they can't
deal
bridge that
if
gap,
they
right,
can't bridge the
right.
gap, if you don't have evidence of them either waiving appraisal or having the cash
Or and that's where the
or
lender, that's where the loan officer
that's where the
comes
loan
in,
officer
doing the
comes in.
doing the homework to make sure,
Yes.
hey, right, if we're making this big of an offer,
Yes.
have you vetted your clients that they actually
Yes.
have those liquid assets to do that, right?
Yes.
Can they, yes, they say they can bridge the gap, but can they actually? Is there a retirement that has X amount of hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars in it? Are we able to take out of that to make it liquid to do it? Those are kind of, there's different levels of pre-approval, right? Like
Right.
there's the kind of standard easy one, and then there's the one where you're vetting those details. And in situations like that, it's important to make sure
Yeah.
that loan officers are doing that. The other thing I want to circle back to is what you said about it just being somebody's opinion, right?
Yeah.
Like this is just an appraiser. I'm not allowed to talk to the appraiser for
Right.
obvious reasons, right? So I'm kind of, a couple
But
steps
I
removed
can.
from that. You can, but I cannot. And so which is good. That's
It's
a
great.
consumer protection,
Yep.
thing that's put in place to help any sort of, backdoor deals, right? And so what's interesting is if you don't agree with the appraised value that comes back, there's ways to challenge it, right? Like you can go out as a team and find other comparables in the
Yeah.
neighborhood to present to the appraiser and say, "Hey, can you
Yes.
relook at this?"
Yes.
There's also ways to order a second appraisal to
Yes.
see if we can get a second opinion. There's also ways to sort of, have some dialogue, not me with
Yes.
the appraiser as to like, "Well, did you take
I
this into consideration?" And sometimes it
I mean,
works.
as a listing agent, meeting that appraiser at that appointment is huge, right?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
that, one-on-one time to help them understand certain aspects of the house that they may
Mhm.
not see on the
Mhm.
surface and to share, you know, comps in the area. I mean, they're happy to get it. Saves them time and energy to have to go searching for it, so they love it. But having those direct conversations is, it cannot be
Right,
underestimated.
right.
They
Absolutely.
go a long way.
Absolutely. Right,
For sure. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we've seen, I know you get calls from me all the time. And the other thing I'll say is we've talked with um, clients, you and me, on various deals when we're worried about an appraisal gap. Depends on a lot of variables in their, for lack of a better word, package about how they're financing a
Yeah.
home as to
Right,
whether or not a
right.
gap will affect them. Because, right, we've had situations where we looked at what they're putting down and what they're borrowing and their folder and realize that even if it appraises 100,000 under, it won't really
Right,
matter.
if they have enough down
Exactly.
payment to then restructure the loan where you're
Exactly.
maybe putting a little less down, a little more to bridge the
Right.
gap. Sometimes you've called me on certain
I call
clients
you
and I say, and you get worried, which rightfully so, because it gets a little bit,
yeah,
it can get a little chippy. And I'll say, "Hey, no need to worry. If that's
exactly.
the case, we restructure. It's not gonna actually change anything about the
Right.
rate. It's not gonna change anything about the loan to value ratio. Like we're gonna be
Yeah.
in a good place." But that's about resources, right? If clients are very, very tight on resources,
Yes.
that's when we need to take
Yes.
a good hard look at
Yes.
what do we really think that
And
appraiser's
that's
coming in at, and is this even you can offer whatever you want, but if you
yes.
can't justify it by being able to have the resources to get it past the finish line, we're doing a disservice to our clients by just pushing them out the door. And this industry moves fast, right? Like I learn
Yeah.
something new every day. And this the last couple of weeks, I've learned a couple of things about slowing down sometimes and creating expectations for both my referral partners and my clients where faster is not always better, right? And we learn from making
No, in
mistakes and
fact, we do the same thing. We
right?
have to slow our clients down a
Totally.
lot of the time. Yeah, and I do, when someone doesn't have a lot, if you're squeaking every penny into that down payment, that's where, we want to make sure that we're covering all bases with that unknown element of the
It's the
appraisal.
what is it? It's
It's a
back to the last
yes.
episode I talked about gray area, right?
Yes.
It's what if this, then this. What if this,
But
then this, right?
it's gray, but right, but between this is why you want a good team, right? You can
Sure.
come up with the contingency plan.
Sure.
So even if it's this, then we'll do that. Even if it's that, then we'll do this. So that they know there's a comfort level that comes with that.
Right.
You're
And
not
if
going to
you're
be
listening out there,
surprised.
this is why you get pre-approved early.
Yes.
You don't get pre-approved the Sunday before you want to make an offer because we can make that happen. We do often. But the people that have weeks lead up time or months lead up time, we're able to look at their file and say, okay, here are the contingencies. Here's what we've built. All of that pre-production, as they say in the video production world, is so important to actually be
Yes.
ready to, oh yeah, this came up, we already have a plan for that.
Yeah.
This came up, we already have a plan. We can't
Yeah.
do that in 24 hours, right?
Right.
So get pre-approved
That's
early.
right. Awesome. Well, I know appraisal is probably not a topic everybody has
It's
top
important.
of mind, but
It's
it's so
important. Right,
important to these
right,
deals. So I
right.
wanted to make sure we spent
Yeah, of
a little
course.
time on that.
Of course.
All right, let's move away from the real estate into
Our
other
mindset
our
segment. Yeah,
mindset
yeah, yeah.
segment.
Right. I think a lot
So
about this stuff.
my and we've talked a lot about
So
this
just
stuff,
so
but
everybody knows,
yeah,
every week we're going to have a different mindset topic. I did one last week and I didn't tell Wendy what it was before we got here.
yeah,
She's doing it this
yeah,
time and
yeah,
vice versa. And we'll kind of keep flopping
yeah.
back and forth.
So my son was home for spring
Yep.
break last week, and we were
Age, how old?
he's 21,
21.
graduating college this
Okay.
May. And we were all just kind of sitting around, I don't know, like we normally do, watching whatever on TV. And something came up about social media and something on social media, and he said, "Oh yeah, I don't know, I deleted my Instagram."
Oh, good
I
for
was
him.
like,
Good for him.
"What?"
Hmm.
And he was like, "Yeah, I just decided I was spending too much time on it." And I was like, "Wow, that's
Hmm.
impressive." And he said, "I was watching this podcast that really caught my attention about how it's, creating problems for our brains
Yeah.
and our thinking." And
Attention span.
it
I can feel it. Yeah.
absolutely, and the podcast he shared with me, and I have seen he shared it with me, and I watched it, was the Diary of a CEO. Have you heard of that with
No, but
Stephen Bartlett?
I'm writing it down
And
right now.
it was, called Brain Rot Emergency. These internal documents prove they're controlling you. And actually, it's very timely because it's, all these, um, social media companies are now basically on trial for having known that their platforms and the content was creating addictive
It
behaviors for
reminds me of the
teens.
cigarette
Yes,
the
like the
cigarette companies
cancer,
kind of
yeah, causing
being brought up
cancer.
when we were
Yeah.
children,
So they're literally on trial now for knowing that what they were doing to people and not doing anything
especially
about it.
youngsters, right? Like
Well, especially
I
youngsters.
used to, teach high
Yeah.
school and it was kind of right at the I taught for 15 years, half of my career or two-thirds of my career was sort of pre everyday cell phone and then or smartphone I should say, and then the second half or second third was very heavy social media. I could tell. I could
Yeah,
tell just their attention span in the classroom, their empathy, their compassion. I mean, the
totally.
list goes on and
No,
on.
and yeah, you could see, I mean, the anxiety and depression that it's caused
Totally.
in this group of up to, I would say, up to people in their mid-20s. But if we're being honest, it's really not just the kids, is it?
No,
Like we all
I have
have an addiction
oh yeah,
to our
I have
phones and
had
our
to
social media
right. I
platforms.
struggle with
Yeah,
I'm an all or nothing guy, right?
right.
So
We
there's
talked about
certain
that.
things I can't do anymore because I just don't have an off button. And so one of those things I've found is social media. I mean, it creates right serotonin that's pumping
Yeah.
through, and you're just getting hit after hit after hit for stuff you don't even care about. I found that I had to put measures in place.
So what did you do?
Sometimes I delete my apps when I'm not using them. So I'll go on, I'll post my mortgage stuff. Mostly I use it for mortgage related
Yeah,
stuff, right? And some connecting with people, but mostly for business.
and concerts.
I will and concerts, right? Yeah, yeah. And I will post, engage and then delete for the day. Or the other one that's a kind of a micro to that or step to that is I put it on this I have all my apps on one page, and then I have to swipe to another
Yeah,
page for Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook because those are the 3 I go on the
yeah.
most just kind of mindlessly. And just having that extra page to swipe to creates this 1 second pause where I think about,
Do I
"Do I
need to
really
do
wanna
this?
go
I
on
know.
this?" And it definitely helps me.
It
It
definitely
doesn't
does.
cure it.
And
S
I
you know,
think it's hard to find that balance when you use this stuff for work too,
sure.
but I also think that's a little bit of an excuse. Like I could easily go on, post my stuff, maybe spend 15 minutes creating some engagement and then getting off, right? But
Right,
like
right.
instead sometimes we find we go down that rabbit hole. I have deleted, but then I always find myself finding it in some other way, but I've limited myself in terms of, like, I don't allow myself to go on my phone, like, the first hour I wake up in the morning,
It's
at
amazing.
night,
That's
like, I
great.
don't
Yeah.
go on it before bed, I'm no doom scrolling at night
Right,
anymore, like, I
right.
'cause I know
But
it
you
makes
have
me
to
crazy.
we're up against hundreds of millions of dollars, billions probably
Right?
of dollars of research and you know effort to make us as a. Do you know Bo Burnham? Have you heard of Bo Burnham?
No.
He's a I guess he started on like YouTube. He's a local guy. I guess I almost said kid, but he's probably not much younger than me. Local guy, I think from Hamilton, comedian.
Yeah.
He made it big. I mean, he lives in LA. He does several things. He's got a special on Netflix, um, a documentary that came out a couple years ago, and he does like these like funny songs to start his career. Anyway, worth checking out. He's a funny guy. Um, but I heard him say something in an interview about, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something to the effect of these social media companies are coming for every second of your time.
Yeah.
And when you put it that simply and bluntly, and we all know it's true, you are up against it. So you have to. Otherwise, it's so easy to fall into
Yeah.
that. I just doom scrolled for 2 straight hours on shit I didn't
I know,
even
and
care
I
about.
don't think people, I for a long time would joke like with my daughter about how she's addicted to her phone, but like it is so obvious that how everybody is really it is an addiction and how these companies just know
Yeah,
that and
yeah.
and so I
And
just
so it
feel
took
like
society to stop smoking
right.
to beat sort of that,
I know
right?
it
Like,
is
and now it's not as much smoking as when we were kids. The
right.
the, the youth doesn't smoke the way they do. They vape, but they don't
Yeah.
smoke the way that we did. It's on us to do it. Nobody's gonna do
It
it
is on
for
us to
us,
do it,
right?
and it's interesting as my son said he when he said he deleted the platform, we were talking about this, and I asked him if he'd heard about something that had happened, and he said, "No, now that I'm not on Instagram,
Isn't that beautiful?
I don't hear about things as quickly as I used to." And he's like, and I said, and he actually said, now I have to make a point of going and finding sources for news and information, but at least now he can pick and choose the sources and
Well,
know
and
that they're
I don't
reputable.
think we're made. Our brains and our nervous system is
Yeah,
not made for a
no, my
24-hour
mine
news
definitely isn't.
24-hour
No,
news
it's so
cycle, right? And
bad.
just
I
constantly
know.
having updates, emergency updates. I have no notifications
I've
on my
turned off
phone.
wild
Only thing is
notifications.
texts
Me
and
too.
calls because
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
business. But all my notifications
Yeah.
are off
Yeah.
because otherwise it's
I know.
just ding,
But
ding.
it
You're like
is
a you're
hard
like
as a business person when you do use these platforms for business and marketing and
But
engagement.
if you
Like
can
it,
time
you do.
block
You
it,
have to time block it. I
that's what you
think
do.
that's the
This is my
key.
half hour to
I think
use
that's the key.
Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook, and then I'm done
Yeah.
for the day, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's
But
right.
it is something that you know, it, it's the 20 somethings are struggling with it. The teenagers are maybe they don't know they're struggling with it yet, but they are struggling with it.
I think they
We're in
know.
our 40s, we're struggling with it.
Oh,
People in
that's
their
so kind
30s
of you to
are.
say
Are
that.
you not in your
Oh,
40s?
yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
No,
Well,
I'm
we
not.
are.
No, but
Oh,
I'm
you're
not.
not?
We're not going to talk about that right
Oh,
now.
well, I am.
I'm just out of
I have
my
a
seat
lot more
ever
gray
so
than you too,
slightly.
and I'm
Well, I
younger.
don't know. I do have a lot of gray, but
Yeah.
anyway.
But
How old do I
anyway,
look?
42.
Thank you. Okay.
Um, yeah, it's interesting because I think in previous decades or generations, um, maybe a younger, the 20s or the teens were struggling with something that the adults had already kind of conquered, and they're looking back being like, "Oh, you can't
Yeah.
smoke, or you can't do this, or you
Yeah.
can't do
No,
that."
it's going to
But we're
be,
all kind of
we
dealing with
are.
this because
Yeah.
it's new.
Well, now they've banned them from school. A lot of schools have
Yeah,
banned them, which
yeah,
is, I think, it took a long time to do
yeah.
that. It seems like, oh, well, I mean, not to get into another whole topic, but, I think with the whole school shootings, like
Right?
people are afraid to ban the phones from the
Sure,
kids because it's
sure.
like
It's
their
tough.
lifeline.
It's
But
tough.
anyway, I don't know. There has to be a balance.
There
Yeah.
has to be a
There has to be
balance,
a better balance.
and again, I think, unfortunately, nobody's gonna do it for us,
No,
right? And
no,
so I
no,
think it's
exactly.
about taking and you gotta take those individual steps. And I
Yep.
think people are kinda calling each other out. We went to
Mhm.
dinner the other night at Ledger. I went 2
Yep.
Sundays in a row, by
Oh
the
my
way.
God, you're
I had an
crazy.
impromptu with my kids who are 24, 22, and 15, and my 22-year-old sat down. I was on my phone checking something, and she said, "No phones tonight." And I
that. I
said, "What?"
know. Don't you
And she
love when
said,
your kids bring you this stuff?
no
It's
phones
great.
at dinner tonight. Everybody put it away. We don't want to see it." And it was cool. And it
Love it.
made me feel uncomfortable at first. And then we all just kind of settled into it. And it was great that my 22-year-old is reminding me to do that. So,
Good for her. Yeah.
you gotta keep each other accountable,
Gotta keep
right?
each other accountable. All right. Well, that I think that was a good
That was
topic.
good.
Good topic.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Love the mindset stuff.
Yeah, me too. All
Right.
right. Well,
Only there's only so much people can listen to appraisal talk.
that's that's so
Right.
true.
Right.
Well, this was fun. If you haven't already, like and subscribed to our podcast, please do that. It helps
And
people
share if you
find
would
us and
like.
share it if
Right.
you like it.
Right.
Or as we said, even if you don't.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll be back next time.
Okay. Take care.